Chronicles, the most authentic podcast of the year. Join us on this emotional roller coaster as we relive the past and look ahead to the future. The Abed 11 Chronicles, 10 voices, 1 podcast, and a lifetime of stories.
Hey, Abed 11, what's going on today?
Hello, peace in the Middle East, guys.
Hey, I just want to tell you guys, we got a special guest in studio today that hasn't been here in a few weeks because he hasn't been feeling good. So I just wanted to welcome Abed 11, number 9, Sophie Abed, back to the podcast.
Hey, brother.
Welcome back,
Sophie.
Welcome back, bro. We
Hey,
miss
how you
you.
feeling?
Sophie.
You good? So people have been asking where you been, man. To tell us, like, before we get started with today's topic, tell us how you been, where you been, and what you've been going through.
Been in the hospital. I got to carry a bag on me now. That's it.
Yeah, but why'd you go to the hospital? What happened?
I had pain in my stomach.
And then what did that pain end up being?
Some kind of disease in the colon.
Okay, and then you got surgery?
Yeah.
And then how much of the colon did they remove? You don't remember? No? All right. And then you stayed in the hospital for how long?
Almost 3 weeks.
3 weeks? Okay. Yeah. And then the bag really is to help with the wound that you have, right? So it's called a wound bag?
Wound bag. And it sucks all the juice out and closes the wound.
Okay. So how long do you think you have to have that wound bag?
About 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay. So, but you've been feeling better?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. As long as you're feeling better, right?
Yeah.
So what is that? What has this taught you? Like, what is the, going through that? Like, does it make you appreciate anything more? Or?
Yeah. I lost a little weight.
Yeah. How much weight have you lost?
About 60.
60 pounds?
Yeah.
That's good. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to keep on that journey?
I'm going to try.
You're going to try? All right, man. Well, welcome back. Everybody was worried about you. So excited to have you back and live in studio. Yeah. Don't be jealous because Shadia wanted to be live in the studio last week and she came in.
I know.
So, but hey, guys, how's everybody doing? Anybody have any questions for Sophie while we're on the subject?
Sophie,
We're glad you're home, Sophie. We're glad you're home.
Alhamdulillah that you're home, and alhamdulillah that you're doing better. Thank God.
Sophie, would it happen to be my visit that helped you feel better? Because I feel like right after my visit, you started getting up and going places and feeling so much better. Did me being there help your, you feel better?
He said you're only there for half a day, and the whole time, the whole time you're kissing up to our parents the whole time. So you really weren't taking care of him.
There for 3 days, I stayed with him. We talked. We connected.
You came on a Friday, right?
No, I came on a Thursday.
And you need to get back to the house at 9:00.
I came on a
I know
Thursday.
what time you got back.
Then Saturdays you're with your aunt all day. And Sunday
With you. We were with my aunts with you at the house.
No.
Well, I'm sure he enjoyed your visit and that helped him recover to get him out of the house faster because he's like, if Shetty is going to be here, I have to figure out how to get out of the house. I'm not around her. So
I pushed him. I said, Sophie, you got to get up. You got to get out, Sophie.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have him back. So today's topic is going to be sports, sports in our life, sports in our individual families. And I know almost all of us have played some sort of sport growing up, and our kids have played sports and how that's changed. And so we're going to start today with Jim because I know, growing up and Jim being the oldest, I always heard the story about the unassisted quarterback sack. And I want to make sure that, you can talk to us a little bit about you growing up playing sports, your kids playing sports, and tell us a story about the unassisted quarterback sack.
Yeah, of course. So I started off playing football, and I also wrestled. So, football, I played in my 10th grade and 11th grade, but 10th grade, they made me varsity, or they made a bunch of us varsity, but they called us practice dummies is what they called us because, when you get to be a varsity guy and you just got promoted to varsity, you get picked on, and you really do. I mean, out of probably like 6 guys that were, chosen from JV to varsity, I think there was only like 3 of us or 2 of us actually that stayed, that couldn't, a lot of them couldn't take the hassle, the harassment they had. I mean, it was a lot of harassment in the locker room. And I don't know, when I was growing up, they did a lot of weird things in the locker room that um, that kind of would be like, for example, spitting on each other or doing different things. I guess it would be like hazing, a type of hazing. But anyways, surviving that, and I did get it. I did, I'm a very patient guy and all, but I did get it in a couple of shuffles in the locker room because of in our culture, spitting is a huge deal. So I remember the one kid that spit at me. I couldn't stand it, and I grabbed him in a chokehold, and he had cleats on, so he couldn't keep his thing. And the coach walked in and said, "You guys want to run into laps?" But he never spit at me again, and it was a big deal in there that these guys would just treat each other, really bad. I just want to tell you about the culture first. So when I was out playing, in practice, they kept calling, they would call us heroes because we tried to do good. And I got hit one time. I know it was intentional when we practice playing. The guy, I was on the defensive side, and I was going in for the quarterback, and one of the blockers, I know it was intentional. He hit me from the side of my knee, and really it hurt me. I mean, I couldn't walk on it. But we practiced a lot, and then we watched the videos, not the videos, but the tapes. We actually had film that we watched. So I was an alternate. For example, in the games, I would go back and forth, and play defensive tackle. And so we were playing Jeff's tour. This was the coaches last year, and they really wanted to win for them. And as I was at the front line, I broke right through, and the quarterback had his arm cocked back, ready to throw the ball, and I just couldn't help it. I was so excited that I jumped, and if you saw the film, it looked like I was just like with my hands out and my feet off the ground, and I tackled him. I was trying to get the ball away from him, but he kept the ball. Anyways, they called it an assistant quarterback sack. So anytime you did anything like that, they gave you a little star that you put on your helmet. You know, then I wrestled. I wrestled, and I weighed like 100. My wrestling group was like 167, but they didn't have we didn't have a 185 guy. So I would wrestle 185. So I wrestled a lot of guys that are bigger than me or heavier than me, and did good with that. You learn endurance, and you learn a lot because when you're wrestling, you're one on one, so it really depends on you. But then I won a lot of I won a lot of matches with default because the other side didn't have a 185 to wrestle. But it did, it taught me a lot, and I didn't give up. That's the thing with being, I didn't, a lot of the guys that were promoted to JV, from JV to varsity, really gave up because they couldn't stand the harassment they got. And I didn't know why the culture was like that in the locker room. It was really, really bad. I mean, like, for example, with my son, or, I didn't want him to go through the same, because it's the same high school that I went to. And I'm not sure, just like the hazing event that they advertised, or they was in the PG County, or one of the counties in Maryland. These guys, would do a lot of really weird stuff, to each other, but anyways, it was great. I played football, and I got to hit the sled every day and run the laps and go up the hill sprints and train. It was really good for me, physical wise and mentally, because I played as a team.
Yeah.
And but they couldn't say my name, so that was the big thing. Is the coach called me Arabian Stallion. He called me the Arabian Stallion. So he would say, "Stallion, come on over here, man," and that type of stuff. So that's kind of the nicknames I got when I was in playing high school football. And wrestling, man, wrestling was good. I I enjoyed it, and but also, I did work. I worked at the school board, at the print shop, and then I worked at my father's restaurant, and then I also worked at Memco. So I had these jobs in addition to
All the
going to practice, and then after school going to practice and doing all the other stuff that we
yeah.
did.
Well, good man. I just always remember growing up. You always told us a story about the unassisted quarterback sack. So
Yeah, I know. The reason why is because um, when they said my name, and how they say your name on the speaker and whatever, they couldn't say my real my real name. They couldn't say it really good. But they anyways, it was
yeah,
just one moment, but there was a lot of moments where I got through or got a tackle or whatever. But that was one where I was the only one to get that quarterback. That's probably the
yeah.
best way to say it.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And we all, obviously it starts from the top and comes down. So, and speaking of sports, I think, Faisal, just a couple, we'll get to Faisal, but a couple things I remember about Faisal is, wrestling and how you maybe tell the story about how, you know, you got suspended right before the big match, and you couldn't compete, but the guy who ended up winning, you had beat the earlier. And also, what I remember about Faisal growing up is you coached all your kids' sports, and we'll get into what you did to us too, on the sidelines. But can you talk to us a little bit about that, Faisal?
Yeah, I started playing football when I was a kid. I don't think Naja played Pee Wee football, but Jamal, you played Pee Wee football with me, right?
Yeah.
In Fairfax, we used to
Yep.
walk. Used to be behind the George Mason College. We signed up to play Pee Wee football, and we used to walk to practice, and that's how we got started playing football. We were like little kids, like 6, 7, 8 years old. We signed ourselves up to play Pee Wee football, and we'd walk to practice, and that's how we started, And then it went from there. We played, and then when I got to high school, in Fairfax High School to start with, I played on the 9th grade team, and I used to catch a ride with the Butterworths. That was their last name. They would always give me a ride home because the activity buses didn't go our way. And but I started in the 9th grade. I played offense. I was a tackle, and then we moved to Spotsylvania, and in 11th grade, I don't think I played in the 10th grade. That's the year we moved, but in 11th grade, I played varsity for Spotsylvania, and I think Coach Gregory was a coach, and I played both offense and defense, and then my senior year, I played just offense, football. We only won one game. I think only 2 games my junior year and 1 game my senior year. But I enjoyed it. And like Jim was, talking about, if you did good, the other guys on the team would get mad. If you played hard and you did good. And, Mr. Brady, you all remember him?
Yeah, Mr. Brady.
Vic Brady, he was like, man, you're a good defensive player. You don't get, and then like these other guys that they get mad when somebody gives you a little bit of praise. But anyhow, I played football, and we didn't have that good of thing. But then I wrestled, and the thing about wrestling, I wrestled heavyweight, and there's no, I think there was no limit at that time. So I was a small heavyweight, and you could wrestle people that were 100 pounds heavier than you. Now they have a limit, I think 275. But, so I was like 230 wrestling people 300 and 350. And, but you know, I used to drive to the vocational center every day from Spotsylvania High School, the old high school, to the vocational center because I took carpentry. The wrestling coach was Mr. Hodge, Gene Hodge. So I drove all year, about 2 years. Nobody said nothing to me. And then one day, the Colbert, I think he was the principal over at the vocational center at that time. He seen me pull up and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to class." He said, "Well, you can't be driving over here." And they suspended me right before the district tournament. And I couldn't wrestle. And the boy from Louisa, I had put him in the Cobra clutch and made him give up. And his last name was Farmer. He ended up winning the whole thing. And I had beat him early in the year in the varsity match in Louisa. But I tell you a little bit, when I started wrestling my senior year, I had a lot of competition. And it was like blood and guts. It was fighting. You know, Rodney Berry, I don't know if y'all know him, but he was mean and tough, and he was like 300 pounds. And then I had to wrestle Ray Barnett. He was like maybe a freshman that year that I wrestled. I was a senior, he was a freshman. So we were the three heavyweights. And so the beginning of the year, I couldn't beat Rodney Berry. You know, we'd battle, and he'd always end up beating me but then he got kicked off the team because he got mad because the other person that he was supposed to wrestle, when he seen Rodney Berry, he forfeited the match before it started. So Rodney Berry hit the glass on the door of the gym and broke it. They kicked him off the team. So then I got elevated to varsity. And so I always, you know, I wrestled good. I used the Cobra clutch all the time. You know, I used to ask the referee before the match, "Can I use it?" And they're like, "Yeah, as long as you don't touch your arm with the other arm, you can use it." And well, we were wrestling in a tournament and in Stafford one time, and the guy, he was like 350 pounds, and he was winning 3-2, and he wouldn't get up. He wouldn't get up off of me, you know. And so I kept on trying to reach his leg, but his leg was too big. And I was trying to reach his leg. I couldn't reach it. So I just reached his testicles, and I pulled him as hard as I could. And he jumped off, and Mr. Hodge said, jump on him. And I jumped right on him, you know. And, you know, but it just tells you, you know, you have to do whatever you have to do to win. You know, then after wrestling, you know, it's a shame that I couldn't wrestle, and not saying that I would have won, but that John, I think his name was John Farmer from Louisa, he won the states that year. And I don't know if I would have won or not, but, you know, because I'm sure he got a lot better. He was like a sophomore, but I went and tried out for the baseball team. So Mr. Lancaster, I don't know if y'all remember him or not, he was the baseball coach. So I was the manager, right? But then, like, during the year, you know, once, like, we practiced, he was like, "Man, you can hit good." I said, "Yeah, I can hit good." He goes, "Oh, we're going to dress you. And we may not use you, but we're going to dress you because we're allowed to dress one more person." So I dressed for the games, and I didn't get in but a couple games, but I did play, you know, baseball my senior year. And but then, you know, my kids grew up playing sports, and I coached them from the time they were 3 years old. You know, Naja played football and soccer, and he played baseball for 3 or 4 years. And then Kayla, basketball. They both played basketball for the rec league. Naja played basketball for the middle school. Nigel Russell, when he was little, he was good. We went all over, with the Orange Wrestling League, Nigel wrestling, and then we moved up here, which before we moved, they Raphael Harris, me and him used to coach the football and basketball together, and we won a whole bunch of championships in football and basketball, and we used to beat the best teams that were undefeated. By the end of the year, we'd beat them. And one year, I went to the trophy place that was there in the parking lot, where the Kmart is, and they had these trophies made up before the championship game saying that we won, And so everybody was surprised. We won the game, and I went to the car and I got all these trophies saying we're the champions. So they were like, "How did you do that?" I said, "Because I knew they were going to win, so I had these trophies made ahead of time." But the guy, he used to be the athletic director or the football coach over at Riverbend for a while. I forget his name now, but we used to battle with him. He didn't like us, but I forget his name. But but we moved up here, and in 2005, and Nigel played football. He played football in Orange, and he was starting. He came here, and it was a different environment, different structure. So it took a year for them to realize, like, hey, he has potential. He's, a good player. And but he didn't want to play basketball here, and he didn't want to wrestle here. But they played. Jacob started here, Pee Wee football. Casey did too, and they played football at the middle school. I helped. I coached. They played football at the high school. Jacob wrestled his senior year and did good. Casey was got invited to the NFL camp thing that they have in Ohio, because he was one of the top linemen in Virginia. I think it was still the second team All-State his senior year for offensive tackle. And, I coached him in wrestling and football, basketball, soccer. All my kids played soccer. They played good. They used to fight over Casey in the Pee Wee soccer because he had such a strong leg. Jacob, when he was in the 8th grade, they said he's got to go to JV. So Jacob started for JV as a center in the 8th grade. And then in 9th grade, they put him in varsity. So he played 9th grade varsity, 10th grade varsity, 11th grade varsity, and 12th grade varsity. And they made him the captain his senior year. And, he played center the whole time. They never let him play defense. He always wanted to play defense. But the coach said that, their coach at that time, he's Elena's dance coach now. His wife runs a dance studio. And he said that Jacob was the best player he ever had, stability-wise. He said he wasn't a superstar, but he didn't make no mistakes, and he knew what, his stuff that he had to do in that game, and he followed the rules and instructions, like which, like how you're supposed to go and stuff. He said, Casey was the meanest. He said Casey was, Casey played some defense too. Casey was the meanest out of my kids. He said, he hit you from the side and hit you late and hit you low, and he didn't care. But now, coaching my grandkids, soccer, indoor soccer just ended last weekend. I took Dury and Elena to to the soccer, and Dury scored 10 goals.
Wow.
They asked me they asked me to take him out so the other kids could score, and he was just taking the ball from them and scoring. And then they let him play with the 6-year-olds. You know, he's only 3, but they were short on kids. He got to play with the 6-year-olds, and he scored 3 goals against the 6-year-olds. And you know,
You got a superstar in the making right there.
Yeah, that indoor soccer, outdoor soccer. Elena plays softball, and you know, Dury played t-ball, and you know, so that's baby Nadja plays indoor soccer, and Nunu plays indoor soccer. So they you know, we coach them in that. And tell you, it's over. Last Saturday was the last Saturday, so we get a few weeks break before something else starts. But,
That's awesome, man. It's awesome to see your grandkids playing now, right? I mean, you know, I know you went through your kids, but to see your grandkids doing it.
Yeah, and they're good. You know, they're good, and they have that background that we have to help them. You know.
Yeah, they have athletes on all sides of their family, right? I mean, even with Dury, I mean, his dad was a great athlete, you know, coming up, and you know, and Kayla played, and you know,
Yeah. I mean, his dad, you know, started for varsity on basketball, played varsity football. You know, Dury has the potential to be really, really good because he's got the mindset. So, you know, yeah, but that's, you know, I don't want to use up too much time, but that's a little bit, you know, we started when I was little. Me and Jamel would walk to the practice, and we used to have to take our stuff with us every day because we didn't have nobody to take us and bring us. And you know, they played in the fields behind the George Mason College, you know, on Saturdays, and we'd always be there to play, you know. So that was when we were little, you know, we didn't have a lot of support.
Yeah, and then Jamal, you know, I know you played, you know, sports growing up, and you know, one of the things that you and Faisal are the only ones I think that really participated in baseball that I remember. So, what was like growing up playing sports, and how did that, you know, affect you in life?
Like Faisal said, you know, we started off young playing football in Fairfax. But I don't know if Faisal remembers, we played baseball too back there behind the McDonald's.
Yeah. We played baseball too, same place.
Yeah, same place back there behind the McDonald's. We played baseball when we were young. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
And then when we moved to Spotsylvania, now when I was living in Fairfax, we didn't play I didn't play out of the high school because I started high school in Spotsylvania High School in 9th grade, and we played football. And you know, they used to start. I didn't start until I got into the 11th grade, and when varsity, and I played receiver and I played defense. And you know, we did pretty good. I think we won 2 games the whole year during my junior year and freshman. I'm at senior year. It was okay. You know, it wasn't really for us, you know, because we weren't there. But when we went into wrestling, it was an individual. Really, I think it was an individual achieve for us to be out there, because if we win, it's us, because we'll move. It doesn't matter. I know that we wanted the team to win, but it was really by us winning, you know, because we can move, go from districts to regions to state, because it really, you see most of the teams, they bring maybe 2 or 3 people, you know, but I know we wanted the whole team to go, but it's hard, you know. But we wrestled, we played football, high school football, we wrestled, and we played baseball. And then I managed baseball just like how Faisal did. We managed baseball, and then we played baseball. I played outfield, and then you know, that was it. We didn't play. We didn't play we didn't have golf at the time back then. We didn't. None of us. I don't think any of us really played basketball, you know, at the high school, you know. wasn't for us. That wasn't for us. But
yeah, but you guys play basketball a lot. I mean, it's kind of funny because we'll get to a lot of the kids. A lot of our kids play basketball, but I remember just going around and following you guys around and being younger. You guys used to just show up places and start playing basketball with people. So you
oh
like
yeah,
basketball.
yeah. We used to play basketball. It wasn't like, but it was like a half court, or if we played, it would be a full court. It wasn't like running down like how they do now. I mean, if you think of it, running down the court and coming back up the court, running down the court, that would have been really at that age, it would have been different for us. We didn't play, but like playing in the, against other kids, like at the high school or at the YMCA or playing at home, it was a lot different,
Yeah.
We used to have played basketball. I'm Todd used to foul a lot, He used to always foul and complain,
does.
And but wrestling was, I think, the best sport that we had out there. That wrestling, and like Faisal said, Rodney Berry was the heavyweight in the high school, and then we had Ray Barnett, like Faisal said. And Ray Barnett was 1 year underneath me, I think. And he was already on the varsity team where I was still on the JV team, and I wrestled 165, I think, at the time. And then I moved up to 189. But them guys are tough. I mean, you go out there, you think, oh, you can beat him. He ain't nothing. And you go out there and them guys, real good,
Yeah, I mean, I think any of us probably say wrestling's our favorite sport. I mean, just for a lot of the things you said, in the sense of it's a one-on-one, so there's no like with a lot of sports, it's the coach's discretion on who is the best 5 or best 11 to be on the field. Where with wrestling, you prove who was the best person to be out there one-on-one on the mat. So I think it's that, and track and swimming are similar in those aspects.
Yeah, well, we as a growing up, we went into open tournaments in wrestling, and that's because we went in. There was no football that you can go out there and say, oh, let's get some pads on and play. We used to play football, out in the field with friends and family and stuff like that. But it wasn't like when wrestling, you can go out there and wrestle, and if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. But as wrestling in the high school, you moved up. I mean, I wrestled from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and I probably 11th. I'm at 10th and 11th grade. I probably won 3 matches the whole time. You know what I'm saying? Because them kids have been wrestling all their whole life.
Yeah.
So
yeah. One thing I remember about you growing up, and probably then they didn't have a swim team, but you were a swimmer. Like, I just remember as a kid seeing you jump off diving boards and swimming. Do you think if they had swimming in high school at that time that you would have went out for swimming?
It's hard to tell, brother. Back then, what is it, 40 years almost? And but yeah, I mean, I could swim, and I used to dive off the diving boards and and swim and stuff like that. It was pretty good, but and then my kids, both of my daughters, they tried out for basketball. My oldest daughter, Linda, she played basketball with Kayla in Orange, and Faisal's daughter. And Miriam tried out for basketball. She played a little bit of basketball. They didn't like it, So, and my grandkids, I'm trying to get them to play some sports. Layla and Jenna, they want to play sports. By next year, maybe I'll put them in the league. They can play some soccer or basketball or something. They like it, So
yeah, sports definitely helps with a lot of different things. This one of the reasons we're talking about sports is because not only all of us participate, I think, but it also helped you in life and helped you become the person you are because of the dedication and the discipline you had to put in to it. So, Todd, we're going to talk to you a little bit. I mean, you played sports growing up, but you also first person to feel the wrath of Faisal being on the sideline all the time. So can you tell us how that, playing sports and having your big brother on the sideline cheering you on all the time helped you out?
Yeah. Sports, we talk about it. It's definitely a big part of our life because not just in high school or rec. We used to play, especially when we moved the spot. I remember in Fairfax playing Little League and going over there behind the McDonald's and carrying my pad. I was a 5th grade, and before we moved to Spotsy. And then when we got to Spotsy, I remember playing basketball and football and all in the yard. And I remember we built our own hoop right behind my dad's window, and it was like a road sign and a tire rim. And you remember that, Reese?
It was a milk crate, wasn't it? Didn't we use
Milk
the
crate,
milk crate?
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did our own hoop, and we would play at night. And my dad would get mad because that was where his room was, and so I remember that's kind of where I remember. And then I remember starting wrestling in 6th grade, and my coach was Mr. Function, and I didn't know any moves. He taught me 2 moves: single leg takedown and half Nelson, like that. That's the only 2 moves I knew. As I wrestled and played football and John J. Wright, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And then Faisal used to come to those matches, but it wasn't as intense, until when I got to high school. And then when I went to high school, my freshman year, it was football season, and I hurt my knee in the parking lot playing lunch football, and I fell and broke my kneecap in 9 places. And that pretty much, my parents wouldn't let me play football after that, but I continued to wrestle. We had 4 coaches. Freshman year was Mr. Hodges. We had 4 different coaches, but one of them was Mr. Hodges that Faisal had and Jamal had. And then we had 3 other coaches after that. And I remember when I was a freshman, I think the same guy that Faisal and Jamal wrestled with was a senior, Ray, and he was heavyweight. And then by my sophomore year, I was already varsity. And I went out there. I'm not gonna lie, I got demolished my sophomore year, and Faisal would be telling me from the sidelines, if you lose, you're walking home. And a couple of people that knew us would come to the matches because their kids were on the team. And he would be, I think he got kicked out of a couple gyms. King George, I think he got kicked out of a couple gyms for, screaming and kicking.
It's called motivation, brother.
Yeah. He motivated us. And then at my junior year, I wrestled. We had a new coach, and I think that was I think the one thing I do remember, 2 memories of wrestling was I wrestled this boy from King William, and he was like a champion, state champion, I think single A or double A, and he was big. And when I went out there, I was like, man, when he saw me weighing in, and I looked at him, and he called me a fish. And fish in wrestling terms is basically somebody just goes out there and flops around. You don't know anything, you flops around. And I didn't have a lot of, I had experience, but not like him. But is what happened. He got me in the hold, and the first period, he was going to pin me, and he got gassed out. And then in the second period, I know Faisal remembers this. We were wrestling at Spotsy. He got me in the hold. I flipped it and landed on top of him and pinned him. And everybody went crazy. Then, I ended up the next year, my senior year, and we had another coach, and I went to wrestle him again at his school in King William, and I pinned him again by chance. I pinned him again. And, so those 2 were good memories. And then,
tell us what happened. I know, I remember that story, right? But didn't he push the referee or something like that, or chase the bus?
After the second match, I pinned him the second time, and he got up and he pushed the referee down, and he knocked down all the chairs. Because basically what happened the second match, he had me, and like Faisal said, you got to do whatever you got to do. He had me in a cradle. And, when you're in a cradle, you're not getting out. But I tilted and I rolled, and I kind of gave him a little bit of extra effort where, underneath, if you know what I mean. Like I hit him as hard as I could. So when he got hit, I rolled on top of him and I pinned him, and he got up, and first thing he did was hit the ref. And he won state championship again that year, and I wasn't a great wrestler. I was 500 wrestler, but the funniest thing about wrestling was my dad came to one of my matches. He didn't come to many, but he came to one. And I wrestled a boy from Stafford, and the boy pinned me like 35 seconds. I mean, he grabbed me. I think it was my junior year. He grabbed me, slammed me down. And I just remember as I was getting pinned, seeing my dad walk out saying, "Oh, you wasted my $5," as he was walking out. That's what he said. That's all I remember. I was getting the pen, and like under 35 seconds, I see my dad walking. I said, "You wasted my $5." And, and
Is that
then,
why your kids went to basketball?
yeah. Yeah. Well, I tried to get him to wrestling. Hattie wrestled his 6th grade year, and he finished 10-3. 8 of those victories were forfeits because he wrestled 80 pounds, and it wasn't any other 80 pounders. But he did win 2 matches. He finished 3rd in the county, and then he had a growth spurt, and he went to basketball. And then after we finished, sports, I started coaching. And, really, like I think Jamal said, you can't just go out and play football and wrestle, and I tried to get Tadic into wrestling. And when you were at Colonial Forge, I brought him over there, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it. So he started playing basketball, and I've been coaching basketball. Hannah plays soccer. The boys have played basketball since, in the last 20 years. I mean, Tadic was little. And then, and he did pretty successful. All of them have been fairly successful at it. And, I've been coaching them. I've coached Wally, my nephew. And, matter of fact, we had a tournament yesterday where I coached Hattie and Wally. But, it was just basketball came upon because we all like playing basketball. And so the kids took it upon, Parks and Rec. And then, I coached them, Parks and Rec, YMCA, travel. And they've been they did good at it. Hannah played all the way to her freshman year. And then she moved to soccer. She's a captain this year on her soccer team. And then Hattie played basketball since 4 years old. And this year he's the MVP of his team. They finished 16-4. And, one thing I know basketball, because you can pick up and play basketball by yourself. That's why it's popular. You put a hoop and they go out and play. You just need a hoop and a ball. And sometimes you don't even need the hoop. You just play, just dribble. So, but I do remember that sports being a big part of growing up because we had the store. And in order not to be at the store, you had to play sports. So, and I played sports, because the activity bus would drop us off at the store. And I remember, and I do remember having some rough times when I was a sophomore in wrestling, getting pinned a lot. I won. I lettered. I won 4 or 5 matches. I was a 500 wrestler, but, I started the tradition that was carried on by Sam, Reith, Joe, Faisal, Jim wrestled. Everybody wrestled. And,
so you're saying you're saying you started the tradition of wrestling, or because if I just heard Jim started wrestling, but
I started at Spotsy, not started the tradition. I carried on the tradition.
Okay,
I was going to say that I remember Wally wrestled, and and he tried his hardest, man, and he finally won a match his senior year, and I was more proud of that than anything I ever did. Him winning that one match. So
I remember you told us that story, man. That was a big moment. So what do you think about? So to kind of resonate to what's going on in your life, your son now coaches basketball, right? So like, how does that look? Like you coached him, he played basketball. Now he's coaching basketball at the high school and helping you with your tournaments.
Yeah, I think what happened is with him is, he started playing basketball, and it owes, like you said, life lessons. When he got cut from middle school every year. He never made middle school, and then his freshman year he went and tried out, and he made basketball all 4 years of high school. But while we were playing, a coach told me and told him, "Hey, don't waste your time with basketball because you might be the best player in this team, but this team sucks. So you're really not that good. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your money." And, he ended up playing basketball and getting a scholarship to Midland and played there. And he did good there. He had some rough times there because of COVID and he got sick, but he had enjoyed his time there. He got a scholarship, $150,000 scholarship to play basketball based on stuff, we did travel on AAU, and they saw the film. So then it's like full circle because he graduated college. He's working on his master's. Now he coaches at Chancellor High School. And, he had his head coach as a freshman team. And now he helps me with AAU. And some of the referees, like even yesterday when we were coaching, one of the refs was like, remembered him when he was playing because it wasn't that long ago. He's only 22. So, it's like a full circle because he's going to make a career in that. That's his,
that's his
he
passion.
wants to be, he wants to make a career in that. So,
yeah, that's his passion. And it also shows you sometimes you can't take what people say or you take what people say and you prove them wrong. And I know he's proved a lot, he's proved a lot of people wrong. And I remember even the story he said about his high school coach, his last year texted him after the season and just telling him, I don't know how that text went, but just kind of short, we should have had you out there more and played more.
Yeah.
So
That happened after the last game when they lost in the regionals to Louisa, and the coach told them, I wish I would have used you more the last 2 years. I wasted your talent, basically in that short thing. That's what he told them. And he still contacts with that coach, and he still talks to all his coaches and from high school, college. He talks to all of them, and it's a good learning lesson for all of us and all the people listening and the kids out there. Sports will make you stronger mentally and physically, and it helps you in later life because you learn a lot of lessons.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I was a late bloomer. I mean, maybe moving to Spotsylvania and coming from in elementary school, I don't remember really playing sports. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really remember playing sports in elementary school. Maybe 1 year middle school before I broke my arm, but really wasn't until sophomore year in high school that I played football and I wrestled. And that's one thing I probably, as I go back and I regret, is I didn't play, and maybe we didn't have that same, in the sense, support system that we give our kids now. Is sports. Let's get you active in something. Let's do something. Because I just remember wrestling and starting my sophomore year, and then playing football. I think maybe sophomore year, but I think I only played my junior year, and I didn't play my senior year. So when we talk about sports, really wrestling was it for me. I loved wrestling. I regret a lot of things that didn't happen in wrestling, but it taught me a lot of different things. And I wrestled. I was a heavyweight the whole time, and at that time it was capped at 275 Faisal, so we didn't have anybody over 275. But there wasn't no 215 at that time either. So now they have that in between. And I'm 100% on the weight classes now, but in between when I wrestled, it was a 189 and a heavyweight. Now they had a 189 and 215 and a heavyweight. And I was a small heavyweight. I was 220 at the time. But I just remember wrestling my sophomore year and being JV, but having the varsity people in front of me always making me better. And I think we all had, for the most part, Mr. Manchester for the most of those years. And I just loved wrestling, loved being in the room. I was in a room when I wrestled, it was me and Sam, and I don't know if Joe was in the room with us at the time, but just going to tournaments, and I think we were successful in wrestling. Can we have done better? I think so. I think we could have been way better than what we were, or what we did, in wrestling. Football wasn't really a passion of mine, but I wish I stuck with it. We won my junior year. We won the state championship and football that year. And I know Sam and Joe talk about their football experiences as well. We had a great football coach and great teams. And I don't know why I didn't stick with it my senior year. I thought maybe wrestling was more in my future. So I got ready for wrestling that year. But, if you go back in history and a lot of different things you can change, you would change things, or would you change things? Because did it make you the person you are by not changing it? And if you would have changed it, what could have happened? Could have been worse or better. But growing up, my Amna, she played sports, mostly soccer. And I remember that first year when they were younger, her and Hannah would do cheerleading, and that cracked me up, them cheerleading. But really soccer, and she had a big kick on her, and I wish she would have stuck with it. But she, unfortunately she didn't. And then she was basketball since she was little, and she's still playing basketball. And this year she was unable to play, but she had tore her ACL, MCL, meniscus in the summertime, actually, coaching a kids camp. But she was really on the verge of doing something big with basketball before she tore everything. She had worked hard. And so now it's back about recovery. And I think that's another big thing we don't talk about is how many injuries are in sports, and then overcoming the injuries and becoming better than what you were. So sometimes those injuries happen for a reason. They kind of make us think about life and our journey. And so that's what she's doing now. She's recovering. Her team had an amazing season, best they've ever done in school history. There were region runner-ups. They were made it to the first round of states. I think, if we can take that over again too and play those games again, we could have won them. But they were 20-4. And that's an amazing season they had. And they blew out most every team they played by 20 to 40 points. So it was a great, great season for her to be on the sideline. It wasn't a great season for her to be on the sideline, but it was a great season for her because she still participated. That's the key with, I think, anybody, like regardless if you are injured or what your role is, to still be part of that team. You're a team. So she figured out what she can be to contribute to the team this year with her injury, and she contributed. She took a lot of the stats for the team. She helped out with a lot of different things with the team, and she motivated her teammates, and she sat next to them and helped them out through the season. And so she found her role for this year, and she looked at a different perspective of basketball, because when you're doing stats, you get to see the different perspectives of where people are taking shots, where they're missing the most shots, where the best plays are coming up. And so that's kind of her year. And we're working on getting ready for next year. So, and that's the goal. But I think for sports really helped me grow up as a person. And I think it helps a lot of different people grow up. I have my different opinions about different sports and coaching and things like that. But that's why I liked wrestling, because it was one-on-one and nobody told me that somebody else is better than me. They had to prove it. And I think we were pretty successful in proving that we were the better wrestlers most of the time. But speaking of wrestling teammates at the time, Sam, wrestled at the same time I did, where, and had the same coaches for the most part, except for senior year. I had a different group of coaches, and Sam had those same coaches for a couple of years. So talk to us a little bit about sports in your life, Sam. And I know your kids are big into sports, and, you think your youngest daughter, she's going to be the all-star of all of them. So.
Yeah. So, one of the most awesome things is to be able to take the wrestling mat with your brothers. And I'm a year, Rita is a year older than me, and Joe is a year younger than me. So I had the privilege of wrestling with my older brother and my younger brother. And you always look up to your older brothers. As Jim started the whole wrestling career for all of us, he started the path. But it was pretty awesome to wrestle. And as Reed said, we didn't start playing Pee Wee or anything like that. I mean, we didn't start till middle school, because that's when the activity buses ran. So for me, as I played football and wrestled in middle school, John J. Wright middle school, and that was pretty awesome to experience that, because that's the first time I ever played football, was in middle school. I ever put pads on. And then as we transitioned into high school, I played football all 4 years. My first 2 years were on JV. Then my last 2 years was on varsity. And I was 5'8", 175 pounds. I was too slow to play running back or linebacker. So my only position was nose guard. And I made the best out of it. I got through the gaps pretty quick. And I think Faisal or Jamal alluded to it. The kids didn't like when you did well, because every team has the stars, and the stars of the teams, they're already pre-picked before the season starts. Regardless if you think that's not the way it works, that's the way that it works. Football, basketball, regardless, they're already picked ahead of time, right? Wrestling, it's one-on-one, right? And you pick who the best person is. And that's why we all love wrestling. But I played football, and we had an amazing coach football. My 4 years, and I did well. Wrestling is really where I bloomed, right? And I wrestled varsity my 11th and 12th grade year, and I wrestled a little bit of varsity my 10th grade year. But my senior year, I did really well. I was 25-3 my senior year. I won the Battlefield District Tournament at 189 weight class. I won the Region 2 championship at the 189 weight class. Went to the state championship in Salem, Virginia. I ended up that state 2-2. But I would say, watching my older brother Rita wrestle, watch a little bit of Todd and Jamal wrestle, but we were young. But I would say is that Faisal was probably my biggest support wrestling. I mean, he pushed me the hardest. Yes, he threatened to make me walk home, and the parents were like, "Hey, look, if he leaves you, we'll take you home." He never left us. He never left us. A couple times he might have left the parking lot and came back, but he never left us. But he was there, and I remember my senior year, we were in a regional tournament. It was a snowstorm, and he drove me all the way to Turner Ashby, where we had the tournament in Winchester, and his 4-wheel drive. And my last match was at 2:00 in the morning, and he was there the whole time.
Hey, I was there too. I remember that.
I know you were there.
The school didn't want us to go. The school
didn't want
wouldn't let us go. And so
Yep.
we had to take it on our own to get up there. I remember we met and it was snowing and we drove up there, but
I mean, Reed had just graduated high school, so he stayed around his first year. And he was there. Faisal was there. We went up there, and it was pretty awesome that we were able to,
came down to takedown, right?
You got the takedown, and what I would tell you is about wrestling, right? It's all about perception, right? The kid looks at you like, oh. And I remember when we were going into the finals and we were doing weigh-ins, and the kid that I was wrestling looked at me because we did weigh-ins with no shirt on, and I wasn't cut with the 6-packs and the big muscles and all that, and the kid was just laughing, right? And that gave me motivation. Like, look, if that kid's laughing at me, and I ended up beating him 6-5, got a takedown at the end, ended up beating him 6-5, and it was awesome. It was an awesome time. I mean, it was an amazing time. We all celebrated, Rita and Faisal, and I remember Faisal picking up the phone 3:00 in the morning, calling our former coach and letting them know that, hey, Sam just won the regional tournament. And I remember that. It was snow and it was pretty awesome. But here's one thing I would tell you about wrestling, right? And Jamal alluded to it. Open tournaments. So I remember as we all graduated high school and we went away to college and we came back, we had an open tournament in Stonewall Jackson in Manassas, and Jamal signed up for the open tournament, and Faisal signed up for the open tournament. Reese signed up for the open tournament, and Joe signed up for the open tournament. I don't think Todd did the open tournament, but they put Jamal and I in the same weight class because it was an open tournament. So we wrestled, our first match, I won my first match and Jamal lost his first match. The guy beat Jamal up pretty bad. And then the next round, who did I wrestle? I wrestled the guy that beat Jamal. And I said to myself, look, I'm going to beat this guy, and these were college kids, like, college wrestlers. So I wrestled the guy and I beat him, and I went to Jamal. I said, "That's for you, brother. That's for you."
Oh,
remember that, Jamal?
Right there.
I think what weight class we were in, Jamal? The 220 weight class at the time. I don't know if
Jamal remembers that.
But it was you remember that, Faisal, at the open tournament in Stonewall Jackson? You're on mute, Faisal. But it was pretty awesome, and then to do those open tournaments. So
yeah, they were. And just before we get back, I do want to say, when you're growing up and you have somebody like Faisal on the sideline, it's intimidating. But you look back at it now, and if I could do it all over again, I wish I would have understood what he was doing, right? Because as a young kid, you don't know he's there motivating you and pushing you and making you aggressive. Because I do remember the one tournament that it was maybe the district tournament, and it was at Cortland High School. It might have been regionals. It was regionals, and I asked the athletic director to go get Faisal and put him in the stands because he was just driving me crazy and bugging me and giving me a hard time. But it made me so mad that I went and beat that kid from Charlottesville that had lost to early in the year, and I crushed him that round. And it was because of what Faisal was there doing and motivating us. So, if you can go back, if there's somebody there in your life that's on the sideline, that's cheering you on, that's motivating you, that's pushing you, they're there to help you, and as a kid, sometimes you don't understand that they're there helping you out. And so I thank you for that. Not that we didn't push each other, but I just remember always Faisal. And it wasn't that he was, you were doing anything bad. People thought it was. Like, I remember you being kicked out of Louisa, they were like, you can't come to the back. You're, because you were calling the refs out of things they were doing wrong. And at that time, they let you get close to the mat, so they got a little scared and they wouldn't ask you to leave. But thanks for always being there and being probably our biggest supporter. I know we all wrestled together, but you were pushed us a lot. So thanks.
You remember when they kicked me out of John J. Wright?
Oh yeah, you got a letter, brother, said not to come back.
Not to come back.
You're barred from the property.
Sam had the guy pinned. Remember Sam?
Yeah, I remember.
You had him pinned the whole first period. You had him on his back, and they wouldn't hit the mat. Like, boy was undefeated. And then as soon as the second quarter started, second period started, he had you on your back, and they hit the mat right away. And I went off on him.
Yeah, we don't worry. We remember. And
we remember.
And the principals made sure that we remembered that. So don't worry. We remember.
But
and if I remember correctly, Sam and Reith, after college, you guys came back to your old high school and coached wrestling for a few years, right?
We did. I'm at my first year out of high school. I was going to community college, and I coached one of the middle schools. I think Sam helped me out. We did. It was Battlefield Middle School, needed a coach, and then when I came back from college, we took over Swansea High School for a couple years, and we had a really good time. And we see a lot of those kids now that we coached. That's the coolest thing, right? Is when you're being a coach, you run into kids. Because I know even Todd coaching, like a kid came up to me the other day. I had a booth set up at Swansea High School, talking about the Career and Tech Center. And the kid that came up, that his grandmother teaches at the school, and I didn't know him, but he's like, your brother coaches me in basketball. And he started talking to me, and he's like, I know this person, I know that person. But yeah, we coached there. And then even when I was teaching, I coached wrestling at Colonial Forge for a little while. And it was just a lot of fun coaching and running into kids that you've coached and you taught over the years. So, but I know we're kind of running out of time a little bit. I want to get to Joe and Shadia and talk a little bit to Sophie before we get going. Joe, tell us about sports in your life.
Well, I mean, just like everybody was saying, we started in middle school. We really didn't start. We didn't have Pee Wee, or we didn't have Parks and Rec. We all started as, I think, 7th grade. We played football and wrestled in 7th grade, 8th grade. Really, it was all training for us in middle school, but it really started in high school. I mean, I wrestled my first 3 years of high school were heavyweight. I was just like Rick, you were saying that I was a small heavyweight. Everybody was up to 270, 275. I wrestled, I was like 215, 220. But my senior year, they came out with the first year of 215. And that's what I wrestled. My senior year was 215. And I won districts that year. And I think I had got third in region. And we went to states. And I didn't really do too good in states. But I think I wrestled the brother that Sam wrestled when he was in states. I don't know if you remember that, Sam.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I think it was a kid from Grundy, right?
Yeah. So I wrestled the brother that you wrestled. But it was good. We had good,
it was good training for us, mentally, because we're in the room. You have to cut weight, or you're like you said, one on one, and these guys have been wrestled since they were kids, and so we went out and kind of showed what we had, and it made us a better person because it was discipline. We had to be disciplined to be there. Big thing was our grades. We had to make sure our grades, we had a certain average to play sports. So all through high school, we made sure our grades were good because that's what we wanted to do, is play sports, play football. Football, football was good, but like y'all was saying, the coaches have their favorites. No matter if you're good or not, they already know who they're going to pick for starting line or defense. I play defensive tackle, and I think my junior year we won states with Coach Coleman. I think Coach Coleman was our coach for all of us, mostly in football through the high school.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he was great. He was a great coach, legend in the area. So and then speaking a little bit about sports, you won a state championship. Sam, you have a state champion football.
No, so
we skipped that year.
Yeah, so they won one my sophomore year, and then the year after I graduated. So I missed out on. I missed out on 2 rings. I missed out on two rings. So.
So Sophie didn't really play sports, but I do have I don't know if you remember this, Sophie, but Sophie didn't play sports. But that year we coached wrestling, Sam, we convinced Sophie to come out for wrestling that year. Was it your sophomore year when you were at Spotsylvania, or your junior year?
No, I think it was his freshman year,
middle school. I came from middle school to the high school to wrestle with y'all.
So it was his freshman year, really?
Yeah, freshman year, yeah.
And we tried to convince him to wrestle, and he wouldn't, but we got him to come out. And one of the reasons we had him, we didn't have a heavyweight. And so we got him to come out. I remember we were just using him because he didn't 100% want to participate and be in sports. But I remember you take him to matches with us in case there was a forfeit, that we can put him out there and get the points. And I remember one match that we had that we had drawn it up in our head how we're going to win. And we knew that they had a 189 pounder, but no heavyweight. So we're going to stick Sophie out to get the win for us. But the other coach outsmarted us and did a double forfeit at 189, and then pushed the other kid up to heavyweight to wrestle Sophie. So we ended up forfeiting, not letting Sophie go out. So you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Reef, it's funny you say that, is that he outsmarted us, and we thought that we were smart, that we were going to bring Sophie with us, go out there, get his hand raised. And I remember Sophie didn't want to do it, but we took him to get his physical, and we signed him up. He did not want to do it at all. He did not, but he did it, and we won a couple matches because they didn't have a heavyweight. But this coach, and we know who the coach is, he outsmarted us. He forfeited, and then we're like, yeah, we're not going to put Sophie out there against that.
And we ended up losing by that one match. But Sophie, tell us what your sports experience. But you played in middle school. Yeah, middle school.
Yeah.
You wrestled
in football.
I remember coming to your matches at John Jay Wright.
Yeah.
You remember the coach you had?
He was a preacher.
He was a preacher, right? Yeah, I remember that. So, and then what made you not want to play sports after middle school?
It just wasn't my thing.
Wasn't your thing? You had other things on your mind, like women in cars.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we thought. And then, really, lastly, Shadia, you really didn't play sports, but you coached, right?
I don't know if I would call it coaching. I think the athletic gene after Joe left us, because me, Melissa, and Sophie don't really have the athletic gene. But when I was teaching at Spotsy, they asked me to co-coach the dance team. And I was like, I don't know anything about dancing. And they're like, don't worry. It's more like supervising, and that the captains of the dance team that have been on the dance team for 4 years will do all the coaching. And it was a great group of girls, and the captains really made sure that the new girls that came in knew all the moves and everything like that. And I was there to support them and, supervise them for their practices and their games. And it was an awesome experience to do that. I tried out for softball my 9th grade year. I had never tried out for any sports. I was never in any sports. And I didn't make it. And then after that, it was like, you know what?
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember when you tried out for softball. Yeah.
And I think Mr. Manchester coach at Spotsy, he gave you a mitt and stuff for me. Is that right?
Yeah, because he used to be a softball coach, and he gave you the stuff you needed.
So he gave me the stuff, and I didn't make it. And I was like, you know what? I just stayed with the clubs, DECA and Spanish Club and the Key Club. And I was in a bunch of clubs, but I was never in sports. But my kids, I put them in their little league sports, the park and rec sports. I put my daughter in soccer for 2 years and basketball for 1 year. She didn't like it, so she's not in it anymore. But my son, he was in indoor soccer for a few years, outdoor soccer and basketball, and he loves basketball. So he will continue with basketball. That's really his thing. We have a hoop outside. He plays every day. As long as it's not raining, he's out there playing. He's taken after his big cousins, and he has that in common with them. So he really does like basketball. But sports is a great thing to be on a team, to have that, momentum and build that endurance and get that exercise and to be out there. I think it's a great thing. And, I'm proud of all you guys and all my nieces and nephews that are in it too. I know there's that risk of injury too. I know Wally got his head gashed a few times, had to get stitches. And I think, Sam, when you were playing sports, you broke someone's arm. And I know there's that risk that we have to keep, in our mind as well. And with Abner and stuff, but yeah, sports is a great thing.
Yeah, no, it is. And you have a team, and you get to meet people, and you get to meet, coaching is hard. Especially these days, being a coach these days with the kind of parents that are out there, sometimes it's really hard to coach, and they don't get paid a lot of money. So anybody who's coaching, and I know a lot of you guys coach now, thank you, because, it's getting harder to find coaches and getting harder to find officials. But I think that's what kind of, growing up, we really didn't go a lot to our younger nephews and nieces games as we should have. And I think we're trying to make up for it now by going when we can. And it's kind of neat going to the games and being together and cheering everybody on. And hopefully continue to grow, do that as the younger kids keep coming up. And now with the kids coming up, and seeing them participate. So I just wanted to.
Hey, Ray, just real quick, in regards to sports, I think sports is a mental aspect of it as well, too. Right. And I think, just for everyone as the kids are growing up and stuff, for the kids to never quit, keep going, keep working hard, because it makes you mentally tough. Right. And also, too, is with the support system, as Reith was saying, Todd and Joe and Jamal and Faisal and Jim and everyone, they come to the kids' sporting events and they watch and they cheer them on and stuff. And we all want everyone to do well. But I think that the kids work hard. And two is student athletes, right? You got to be a student first, right? And I'm proud of all our nieces and nephews and kids, A's and being in, National Honor Society. I mean, it's pretty awesome to see that. But it starts first as a student, because I think Joe alluded to it. You can't be an athlete if you're not a student, right? And I think that's the cool thing about it is that we never had to worry about that for our kids, because they were always a student first.
Yeah.
So
I think we could have another whole podcast on sports and coaching and things like that. So we're going to leave it with today, but just next week, tomorrow starts the holy month of Ramadan, and next week we're going to talk a little bit about Ramadan. And so, for our viewers who don't know what it is and what it's all about, that's going to be our topic for next week. But I want to thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for Sophie. I'm glad you're feeling better, and hopefully now he's back. So thanks again, and we'll see you guys. Hey, look, if you don't follow us yet on social media, remember, Abed 11 on Facebook, Abed 11 on Instagram. We're also on TikTok, and don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe. That's where the videos go on there too. So thank you very much for being here, and see you guys next week.
See you guys.
Take care. Yeah, bye.
Welcome to the Abed 11 Chronicles, the most authentic podcast. We extend our heartfelt gratitude for joining our journey, immersing yourself in our tales, and becoming a part of our family. Stay connected with us by following at Abed11 on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Keep the adventure alive with the Abed 11 Chronicles, where 10 voices unite to share a lifetime of stories. We are looking forward to seeing you next week.